Hi, everybody, and welcome to Northwestern. My name is Chad Faber, and I am an Associate Director of Admission here at Northwestern, and lucky enough to cover a lot of the West Coast of the United States for admissions, including Hawaii and California, Nevada, all the way up to Montana and Utah as well. I'm joined today by Mac, and we are going to take you through about hopefully about 45 minutes where we talk a little bit about Northwestern and introduce you not only to a little bit about the academics, but also about the residential community, and then finish up talking a little bit about admissions and financial aid. So I did mention that I was joined by Mac. So Mac, would you want to say hi to everybody here?
Yeah, Chad. What's up, everyone? My name is Mac. I'm from Oak Forest, Illinois, and I recently graduated from Northwestern. I studied radio, television, and film, which is otherwise known as RTVF, because we really love acronyms here at Northwestern, and that was with the focus in animation and game design.
And by recently, you mean yesterday, correct?
Yes, yesterday.
And look, Mac graduates yesterday and is here working today. So I know you were a late addition, and it's been forever since I've done one of these. So expect some out there in the audience, expect some, hey, I think this might be yours or this might be mine. So, but yeah, so everybody be a little bit patient because it has been a long year, and we're going to try and make sure that you learn a little bit about Northwestern here in the next, hopefully about 45 minutes. So Northwestern is located in Evanston, and we're about 3 miles north from Chicago, Illinois. And it is the first suburb just north of the city. And, it is in Chicago, but it's about as close to Chicago as you can be. So from our visitor center where I would normally work at non-pandemic times, if I go running, we're right on the lakefront. If I go running left, I'm running up to like the Baha'i Temple and into Wilmette, and that's about 2 or 3 miles away. Or if I run south, I'm in Chicago in about 2.5 miles. And there are just so many advantages that students have being located near this big city. And so it's more than just being near Chicago. And I think there are kind of three big things that you take away from this. Not only is it a big city, but it is a college town. And there are all these cool college places that students really, literally and figuratively can take advantage of. And it is a residential community that we have here on campus. And then we have this lakefront campus. And the lake really does frame what everything at Northwestern how it takes place, because campus is about a half mile long and about a quarter mile wide. And, it's a very walkable campus. It's about 15 minutes from one end to the other walking, or about, 10 minutes on a skateboard, or 5 minutes if you're on a bike. And you're going to see students all over campus all the time that you're going to be, saying hi to as you walk by. And it is a great place to go to school. And we're going to try and introduce you a little bit about that. So who are we? We do have about 8,000 undergraduate students, and they're from all 50 states and over 95 foreign countries. We get about 48,000 applications each year for students who are interested in coming to Northwestern. For a first year class, it is about 2,000 students. And then we're going to welcome another 200, maybe 250 transfer students as well. And you would think, like, with that medium size, you might have some pretty big classes, but about 80% of our classes, have fewer than 20 students in, and I'll let Mac talk in a little bit about, some of the smaller classes they have and what that means and what it looks like to be a student at Northwestern, with, over 150 countries represented, and students applied this year from about 9,000 different high schools. Okay. And so what is it that makes Northwestern? Well, I really do think that the academic flexibility that students have when they enroll at Northwestern is one of those things that makes Northwestern really special. So when I was an undergrad, I went to a semester-based school. And so I took 4 classes in the fall and 4 classes in the spring. So I took about 32 classes as an undergraduate. Well, at Northwestern, students take 4 classes in the fall, 4 classes in the winter, 4 in the spring. So rather than having 15-week semesters, we have about 10-week quarters. So, in some semester-based schools, you might only be able to take, 32 classes over a period of 4 years. Whereas at Northwestern, you might take up to 48 classes. And so that difference in classes between up to maybe 16 classes more at Northwestern really does allow for our students to come in and have no idea what it is that they want to do. And our most popular major for first-year students is undecided. You can come in and already know what two majors you want to be. And you could be in very disparate majors. I mean, I've had students that have studied at Northwestern and worked for me that have been both econ majors and theater majors, art history majors and math majors. And then our students do have the ability to move from one school to another if they come in undecided and figure it's something more that they want to do. And so we do have this 6-school system. And so when you apply to Northwestern, you're actually applying to one of our 6 schools. And so what I want to do now is just take a minute and talk a bit about each school and what they're about. So at the heart of Northwestern is Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences, and that's where about half of our undergraduates study. And that's where you would find all the classic majors you would expect in a small private liberal arts school, whether it be philosophy, history, biology, chemistry, anthropology, but we have some newer majors too. We have public health, we have global health, and different majors like that. And this is where you'll find, about one half of our undergraduates, and anybody can pick up a second major in the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences if they choose to. Our second biggest school is the McCormick School of Engineering and Applied Science. And so what I really love about this school is that they do teach 2 different ways. I think they want you to use both sides of your brain in order to really think about being an engineer as a left brain and a right brain to be a whole brain engineer. So they use a lot of design thinking principles. And so students that enter into the McCormick School of Engineering and Applied Science, like, you're going to take design thinking. You're going to take public speaking. We're going to try and get you out of your comfort zone and try and develop you through a variety of different ways to try and be an the Bean and School of Music, that is the only school where you have to audition in order to be accepted into. And so it is a music conservatory education with this liberal arts kind of background to it. And you can blend those two kind of together. And I think there's, over 30 different performance areas that students will study in. The Medill School of Journalism, Media, Integrated Marketing, Communications, a very long name for a school with a single major being journalism. And so they're going to teach you how to tell a story. And it might be through long form journalism, it might be through video, or something as short as a 180 character tweet. And I know that marketing and journalism has changed a lot in the last 15, 20, 25 years. And Medill stayed on that cutting edge. And the variety of places where students get jobs when they graduate from this school is pretty incredible. And then our smallest school is actually the School of Education and Social Policy. But I do think that it is a school that, if you really do want to be an agent of change and make a difference in the world, that it's one of these schools that students find once they come to Northwestern. And so it is the most transferred into school for students who arrive here at Northwestern when they really realize that they do want to make a difference and they see some of the opportunities that are available to them. And then the final school, the School of Communication. I think it's interesting because there are a variety of different majors. So not only do you have communication studies and human communication sciences, but you have radio, TV, film, dance, theater, performance studies. But I'm not going to steal all the thunder about this school. And I'm going to let Mac tell you a little bit more about their time here at Northwestern and what that means.
Yeah, of course. So I actually started out when I came into Northwestern, I came in undecided, planning on the pre-medical track. And that is just a testament to how easy it is to switch over. I ended up switching over to the School of Comm at the end of my freshman year. I didn't know what I wanted to do really. I was before I was in neuroscience and classes and my pre-med classes and not really enjoying it and not doing well. And I'd been set on that. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. And luckily, because our school is so flexible with the quarter system and classes, I was able to take an RTVF class, figured out I liked it, and I ended up switching over to that. And yeah, our academic structure obviously gives a lot of flexibility to explore different areas of study. I've taken courses in 5 of our 6 schools, including World Biogeography in the College of Arts and Sciences and Marriage 101 in the School of Education and Social Policy. That's allowed me to look at different majors and potential career paths outside of the film major. And Northwestern's academic structure is designed in a way that helps students discover and explore their unique educational journeys. So some of you may be like my friend Diana, who knew exactly what she wanted to major in. She saw CESB's Human Development in Context and Secondary Teaching while she was sitting in an info session, and she knew it would be the best path for her to become a teacher to those who've experienced trauma. And after doing well in her HDC and Teach Ed classes, she graduated with her teaching credential and even picked up an art practice minor along the way, which is another example of interdisciplinary nature of Northwestern. But however, not everyone has this experience, and that's okay. About 50% of our students come to NU, as Chad said, with undecided majors and need to try different paths to find what it is they want to study. So you might be like my friend Olivia, who started in the College of Arts and Sciences with a major in computer science. And then she switched to the School of Comm as a film major, and then finally ended up at CESB as a learning and organizational change major. And after all that, she was still able to study abroad her junior year and still graduated in 4 years. So the classes she took in exploration allowed her to really see what she was interested in studying rather than getting a degree in what she thought she should be interested in. And whether you arrive knowing exactly what you want to study or come in with absolutely no idea, Northwestern has the resources and support to help you find your way. So Northwestern students, sorry, I'm trying to I can't, are we in the right slide here, Chad?
Yeah, we're good. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. And if you want me to jump in, let me know. Cause I think once I heard about Olivia, I think it's my turn.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah. So I think the big thing too is that, there are three major ways that students study in interdisciplinary ways. So you have majors, you have minors, and you have certificates. And so about 80% of our students, or more than 70% of our students at least, will have more than one academic major. And so, a major is somewhere between 14 and 18 classes. A minor is somewhere between 6 and 8, and then a certificate is between 4 and 6 classes. And every school has certificates. And what's interesting about a certificate is that it is a curated set of classes. It's going to give you a specific set of skills useful to an employer when you graduate. And so that makes it really interesting. You can combine a whole bunch of different ways to kind of bring topics together and to kind of, personalize whatever it is that you want to do. And, with having 150 majors and over 4,000 classes, it's like, I was thinking about when you're in high school and you have, 5 major classes. You have math, science, history, English, and a foreign language. And then you come to Northwestern and there are 150 different majors even to pick from. It can be overwhelming. And so that's why we really want to, have a core of liberal arts understanding, especially if you're in the College of Arts and Sciences, but then, some, like specific studies as well. And there's just so many broad classes that it may take you a little while to kind of figure these things out. So it'll be okay. So a lot of learning though takes place outside of the classroom here at Northwestern. And, and that looks like 3 different things. It looks like study abroad, it looks like undergraduate research, and it looks like internships. And I use internships, but every school at Northwestern kind of has a different word for what internship means. And so what we do try and do is make sure that, anybody that wants to go abroad can abroad. It might be sophomore year, it might be junior year, it might be senior year, it could be for 1 quarter, it could be 2 quarters, it could be for a whole year. And we do set aside a lot of money each year for just undergraduates to do research. And last year alone, we set aside $3.5 million for undergraduates to do research, even in a pandemic. Okay. And so I'm going to let Mac talk about a little bit about innovation on campus and what that kind of looks like.
Yeah, for sure. So for example, the Garage at Northwestern brings together a cross-disciplinary community of students, faculty, staff, and alumni who all share a passion for building new ideas. And this is one of our biggest innovation centers on campus. The 11,000 square foot space is home to any Northwestern student building their ideas into reality. At its core, the Garage is a startup central at Northwestern. It's a community, space, and network of resources for every Northwestern student to learn, iterate, and grow. Each month, they hold various classes, office hours, events, and workshops. They also offer different grants for student entrepreneurial teams, spaces to experiment with new ideas, and plenty of faculty, staff, and industry professionals to offer advice and guidance. And if you head on over to our admissions YouTube channel, you'll find an info session that goes way more in depth about the Garage and more of its inner workings. But the Garage is a perfect example of a space at Northwestern that brings together opportunities for both intellectual and professional growth. And luckily, these applied learning experiences don't really end at the Garage. So yes, internships and career opportunities. Experiential learning opportunities are an inherent part of Northwestern's curriculum, and they're layered throughout our academic support structures. So for example, some Northwestern schools have internships built into their curriculum. So you receive course credit hours spent interning. CESP has the practicum, and Medill has the journalism residency. My friend Kelly interned with LinkedIn for her JR and has since graduated and works with them today. And unlike practicum and JR, all of our students can take advantage of the Chicago Field Studies program, where they work with the university to find an internship in a profession they want to pursue in the future, while simultaneously receiving course credit during the school year. And for any kind of internship, Northwestern Career Advancement works with students on resume building, mock interviews, and career fair prep to help secure positions and ensure that we have sufficient professional experience before graduation. As you can see here, about 2/3 of Northwestern undergrads reported holding one or more internships throughout their time at school, and 96% of the class of 2019 were reported to be pursuing meaningful post-grad plans just 6 months out from graduation. And these recent grads end up at a variety of respected organizations around the world, and we'll see some of them here on the next slide.
Yeah, and so we don't just take a bunch of JPEG clips that we pull off of the internet and throw them up on the slide. These are, a lot of places that our career services and career advancement works with. I just think of some of these. It's like I had one of our senior counselors last year did an internship with Tesla as an electrical engineer, was working in actually material science is what he was in, and ended up getting a full-time offer from Tesla, and now does battery design right outside of Reno, Nevada, in the Tahoe area. And it's just like it's so interesting watching some of the students that come and work for me and what they go off and do. We have other students right now that are doing Fulbright grants, and other students that are doing Teach for America. We have students that join the Peace Corps, students that join the Marine Corps. And it really is an interesting place for when you graduate. And then the thing I like talking about too is even some of our famous alumni have gone in what they've done. And I know Mac is in the School of Communication, and that's where some of our most famous graduates come from. Stephen Colbert, Seth Meyers, Julia Louis-Dreyfus were all in the School of Communication. George R.R. Martin, the writer of Game of Thrones, he was actually in the School of Journalism. And it's like it's impossible not to run into an alumni from Northwestern in whatever industry you're in. And a lot of them are willing to help young graduates out and try and give them not only advice, but opportunities to get a foot in the door in whatever it may be. So now I want to shift from talking a little bit about academics and the path from Northwestern through what school you enter to what happens when you're an alumni, to talking about our campus community and what happens to be a part of this community. And so I'm going to let Mac talk a little bit more about life on campus here at Northwestern.
Yes, of course. So as you can see, we have like residential areas, housing models, these little quick facts across the bottom of our screen. So when it comes to student housing, there are a variety of different options in res halls. You've got North Campus and South Campus buildings, suite style rooms versus your classic hallway layouts and shared bathrooms, and even specialized res halls such as Hobart House, which is a women-only res college. However, there are some basic functions of res life that are the same no matter where you live on campus. So each res hall has an executive board that helps to plan events and other activities for students in that hall. Res halls have their own formals and social activities. Many res halls have their own intramural teams. They run many more events like Halloween movie nights with free snacks, and usually there are faculty members involved in planning events for res halls. During the 2 years students live on campus, they have the opportunity to get to know and grow with their own small, tight-knit communities in the res halls. And you can learn more about the residential experience on our YouTube channel as well. But res halls aren't the only places where students will find on-campus community, because the community starts as soon as you arrive. So Wildcat Welcome is our week-long orientation program where students are introduced to the Northwestern community with a group of other first years, an upperclassman peer advisor to lead you through the process. Your PA group is truly your first support system on campus, and the people in that group may become your best friends, people you'll eat with in the dining hall, people you'll share classes with, or just familiar faces to say hi to when crossing paths on campus. Wildcat Welcome allows students to practice vulnerability and create connections across identities before classes even begin. Some of my favorite memories from that week are the night when NU rented out Six Flags for Northwestern students, or when all of the new students got tickets to see Hamilton downtown. And that was my first professional Broadway show that I'd ever seen. Students will also learn about Northwestern's rich traditions, such as the Primal Scream, which happens at 9 p.m. the Sunday before finals week starts. We all scream at the top of our lungs, regardless of where we are, whether that be our rooms or in the library. And my favorite tradition is painting the rock with my student groups after guarding it for 24 hours straight. And yes, I have guarded it on a snowy night in January. But wait, there are even more opportunities beyond res halls and PA groups for students to form a community on campus. And those opportunities can be found in one of our 500 plus student organizations. So students have the opportunity to engage in a wide variety of activities, from performing arts groups to pre-professional groups to club and IM sports. Students can get involved with activities they've done for years or try something new while they're here. My friend Jack tried out for the men's club rugby team and found a lot of joy in wearing short shorts and running off steam with the boys after a long week of classes. For me, my involvement in my student orgs is how I've made most of my friends and created networks here. For instance, in Camp Kesem, which is a student organization dedicated to serving children affected by cancer, our first priority is putting on a great week of summer camp for the kids, and we usually fundraise throughout the year. But we also have hangouts and birthday celebrations together. And those moments really meant a lot to me because Kesem was like one of my main support systems at college. And every fall, we bring our local campers to Northwestern football game and catch up with our families, which allowed us to engage with the community around us. But yeah, that's like, we have over, I think we have over 600 plus student groups, so 500 plus here, 600 plus student groups registered on Wildcat Connection. With your student ID, you're able to attend any of our sports games for free. Obviously, you see here 15 acapella groups. I think Pitch Perfect was like written based off of Northwestern's acapella scene. And there's just a lot to do here.
Yeah. Okay. So one more transition here. I'm going to take over. I'm going to talk a little bit about applying to Northwestern and what that kind of looks like before we talk about financial aid as well. So we have two different application processes here at Northwestern. We have an early decision process and a regular decision process. So early decision, if you are already bleeding purple, if you've had a chance to see campus or it's your first choice, you may want to consider applying early decision. So the only difference between an early decision application and a regular decision application is that it is a binding process. So it's kind of like you fill out the Common App or the Coalition app, and there's an extra page at the end. It says, if I'm admitted to Northwestern, I'll withdraw my applications from other universities. And if you're admitted, we'll see you in the fall. Okay. And so that deadline for students to apply is November 1st. And so if you want to play the field a little bit more, if you want to explore your opportunities and what other places that you might be interested in, and see where you get accepted at before making a decision, regular decision might be right for you. And so that deadline is going to be January 3rd. And we get back to you in mid to late March to let you know if you've been accepted or not. And once again, so we are a coalition school and a Common App school. So we take either or application. And so in addition to your application, we are going to look at a few other things to try and do this holistic review and figure out who are the best about 2,000 students that can make up this community and make up this class from all 50 states and about 95 foreign countries that we're going to end up admitting. So, you're going to have a Common App essay, and then there's going to be a supplement to that where we're going to ask you why Northwestern. And, in about 250 words or less, you're going to need to tell us yes, I already know that we're a mid-sized research university located along Lake Michigan, just north of Chicago, Illinois. Great. I don't need to know any of that stuff. Why are you applying? How are you going to take advantage of the resources here? How are you going to take advantage of all these academic opportunities that exist in this place? And so that's what we're looking to find out. We're going to ask for 2 teacher recommendations. One of those could be from a college counselor. But if you're at a big public high school where, you have 700 people in the graduating class and there's only one high school counselor, we'll take 2 teacher recommendations. And we're trying to find out from teachers that you have in core subjects. So math, history, English, foreign language, science. And we're trying to find out about your academic capabilities and what you'll be like as a college student and how well your intellectual and preparation and rigor are for a place like Northwestern. your high school transcript. I think that is the most important piece of your application that you're going to submit to Northwestern. Why is that? Well, your transcript isn't just your grades, okay? It shows, the sequence of classes you took, how much rigor they have, and the marks that you earned in those classes. And that's going to show how prepared you are for a place like Northwestern. A lot of schools don't rank, but some schools that do rank, in almost all situations, students that are accepted at Northwestern are in the top 10% of their graduating class. And SAT or ACT, once again, for this cycle, for 2021, 2022, we are going to be test optional. We're looking at what the future holds, and hopefully we'll have a decision soon on whether we will remain test optional or whether we're going to ask for testing going forward in future years beyond if you're about to be a rising senior right now. And so, if you have an opportunity to take an exam and you're proud of how you did on it, you can certainly submit those scores to us, and we'll look at them within the context of your application. But, if you still have a difficult time registering for an exam, it's fine that you don't submit it as well. We won't look at your application any different. So that's a little bit about the application process. I'm going to talk about financial aid because I think this is an incredibly important piece as well. So I think the first thing to talk about is that, Northwestern costs about $75,000 to $77,000 a year to attend for the full year. So that's tuition, room, board, fees, books, personal expenses, healthcare, travel, everything that it takes to be a student at Northwestern. It's more than just tuition, room, and board. Okay. But we're able to provide financial aid for all of that. And so, we're in the Big Ten. There are 13 other schools in the Big Ten. Of those 13 other schools, they're all public as well. And so even when you look at, the Big Ten being 14 schools and how many of them are public, it's still, for a middle-class family, should cost you as much or less than a public school in the Big Ten to attend Northwestern if you're a middle-class family because of our financial aid. We have one of the best financial aid programs in the country, and we're one of the best endowed universities in the world. And we're able to use some of that endowment income to fund financial aid to the tune of about $210 million last year. And so the biggest thing that I want you to take away from this talk about financial aid is two things. It's like, regardless of what your family circumstances are, when we read your application at Northwestern, if you are a U.S. citizen, a permanent resident, or an undocumented student in American high school, we're going to read it, and we're not going to know if you have financial need or not. So we're a need blind financial aid process. And then once you've been admitted to Northwestern, we have a need-based financial aid program so that we are not going to, ask families to pay more than they have the ability to pay after you fill out the two forms that we ask families to fill out. So the last of the acronyms, hopefully here, would be the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, and then the CSS Profile, which is a collegiate scholarship search. It's a document put out by the College Board that families need to fill out in order to be eligible for financial aid. So you fill out those two forms, and then we're going to give you an idea. We'll give you a financial aid award based on what your parents have filled out. But there's a much, much easier way to figure out how much you even qualify for financial aid long before you've applied to Northwestern or filled out any financial aid form. So you go to the homepage of our financial aid office website, which is financialaid.northwestern.edu. We have a financial aid calculator right on the homepage of that website. And it should take you 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes at the most, with a little bit of information about your mom and dad's income and about your family size to get a very good sense of how much Northwestern would ask your family to contribute to the cost of your education. Regardless of what that cost is, okay? What your parents' ability to pay is, beyond that, we're going to provide you with need-based aid, which would be in the form of a grant. So no Northwestern student has loans packaged as part of their financial aid package. So regardless of whether your family makes, $30,000 a year, $130,000 a year, you should graduate with zero debt. And that is because we have the ability, because of our endowment, to not ask families to take out loans in order to graduate. Because we don't want you to have to make those choices about taking a job that might be service oriented versus taking a high paying consulting job in order to do what's fulfilling, because you might have a whole bunch of student loans. So the biggest thing I think to take away from this is please go check out our net price calculator and see what it looks like for your family and how affordable Northwestern can be for a variety of families on the income spectrum. And so, about 20% of our students, maybe 21% of our students, come from families that make less than $50,000 a year and are eligible for a federal Pell Grant. So families that come from that income range and income stratum, we're going to ask for very, very little, maybe nothing from the family in terms of the contribution to go to a school where the total cost is over $70,000 a year. So we do want to make this affordable, and we want to make sure that we're making this education possible for any student that has the ability to be accepted at Northwestern, regardless of your ability. Okay. So I think that that kind of wraps up a little bit about admissions and financial aid. And these are some ways to stay in touch with us. We have a whole bunch of other online tours and some really short pieces too about patios to explore in and around Northwestern, coffee shops, some of the places on what we would call STEM Street around all of our engineering places. We have some student performances. We have essay writing topics. We have, how to visit campuses when you can't visit them exactly at this moment in time on our YouTube page. So hopefully that is a pretty good introduction to Northwestern in about 30 minutes or so, which gives Mac and myself a little bit of time to take questions. So if you have any questions, I know some of you have probably been throwing them up in the chat and have been answered, but I'm going to see if there are any other out there that Mac and myself may want to answer for people that have questions right now for the next few minutes before we finish up. So I'm going to quit sharing my screen so I can take a look at some of these questions. And thank you for staying with us so far for about 30 minutes. Oh, okay, yeah. So here we go. First question I see: what's the main mode of transportation used by Northwestern students? And I probably should have even hit this in the introduction. So the great thing is Chicago has more direct flights in the United States than probably about anywhere. And we have two major airports, being O'Hare and Midway. And so you can take an Uber from either airport to get to campus. And I think, on campus, I live in downtown Chicago and I don't use a car ever. And I use three basic ways to get to and from campus. So we have the L, which is called and it's short for like the elevated subway. And if you've seen any TV show about Chicago, you're probably pretty familiar with it. And there's a line that runs right through campus. And interestingly enough, it's just like our school colors. It's called the Purple Line. And so it can take you from Northwestern into downtown Chicago and into any of the 87 neighborhoods in Chicago in about, 30 minutes maybe. We also have an intercampus shuttle, because not only do we have a campus in Evanston, we also have a downtown campus where our medical school and our law school are. And it is right in the heart of the theater district and by the Bean and right on the lake, off of Lakeshore Drive. And so if you bring, you bring your, we call it the wild card, which is your Northwestern student ID. You bring that on the shuttle, and you can jump on there and go downtown whenever you want, whether it's for something, an internship, or whether it's just to explore in downtown Chicago. And then the third way, which is the way I get to and from campus when I go to work every day, is called the Metro. And so it's a commuter rail line, and it takes me 16 minutes to get from Bucktown Wicker Park to Evanston. And so I just get off on campus and walk across campus to the visitor center, where I'm the director of, and right on the lake there. And so that is one of the kind of how people get to and from campus. But on campus, you absolutely, positively, 100% do not need a car. If you really want to get from one end of campus to the other in about 5 minutes, thousands of our students do have bikes and lots of bike racks outside of every dining hall, academic building, residence hall, and things like that. So hopefully that answers a question about transportation. Here's a question from Matt. And the question is how has Northwestern changed you? And hopefully you're ready to answer this because you probably had parents and family that, are asking you, what are you doing now that you've graduated? And was it worth going there? So how do you think you've changed in 4 years as a student at Northwestern now that this culminating experience wearing that purple gown and the weird mortarboard hat took place 24 hours ago?
Yeah. What a question. Yeah, like I said before, I came in and I had this idea of like what I wanted to do or what I thought I wanted to do and what I thought that I should be doing. I think like especially for like arts-based like careers, they're not as valued as often as like, when you're young, you hear about like being a teacher, or a doctor, or a police officer, or a firefighter, or something like that. And I like didn't know that I could like have a creative like career. If I showed you a picture of me like coming into Northwestern and a picture of me now, they're like even like I just look very different. But yeah, I don't know. So when I came in, I was pre-med and I had this idea that I needed to like be a doctor to like do good in the world. And I just graduated this past week. I got a job offer from DreamWorks Animation, which is where I interned in the winter time. And I like didn't know that I could make a career out of something that I was like that I was like a pastime or a hobby of mine. And that's not for everybody, but for me, like I'm very happy like that I was able to find that here at Northwestern. And I don't know, even college is just a life-changing experience and you grow so much. And I think like the community I found in Northwestern really allowed for positive change in my life.
Did Northwestern help you get that internship, or how does Northwestern help students get internships?
Yeah. So it was like not like directly Northwestern, but it was like somebody that I knew grew up with somebody else who was working in HR at DreamWorks. And I also like I did get a lot of help from career services. Like I got this grant to get like an interview suit. So like because I applied for it, I was able to get money from school to get like a jacket for my interview for that. But it was like that connection that I made with somebody who like was from somewhere across the country that I wouldn't have met elsewhere. But I was able to meet because we both went to Northwestern. So that network too of like people that I've met from all over, not just this country, but like across the world. And like making those connections and like people who can help you out because of that.
Yep. And so we had a couple questions here. One is about undergraduate business programs. And yes, the person asked this question is correct. We do not have an undergraduate business major. However, that has never stopped a single person at Northwestern who might be interested in working in the business world from working in the business world. So if you go to northwestern.edu and you just type in roads to business, they're going to pull up this PDF that you can take a look at. But a couple majors that are very popular for students who want to work in investment banking, consulting, iBanking, private equity, consulting, whatever it may be. Economics is one, but then another one that's actually perfect for consulting is called Learning and Organizational Change in the School of Education and Social Policy, because that is what consultants do, is they help organizations change. But we talked about the garage as well. The garage is where ideas get built on campus. And there are a lot of other opportunities like that. Are students able to major in across different schools? Absolutely. And like I may have said before, so you have a home school of the 6 schools that we have, but any student can get a major in a second school like the College of Arts and Sciences. So if you're thinking of applying to Northwestern and you'd like to do a specialized major like journalism, communication, engineering, education, and social policy, apply directly to that school because you can always add a second major in the College of Arts and Sciences in Spanish, in history, in biology, in whatever it is that you want to add. Question: What are the dorms like? We usually call them residence halls. The thing about that is, I think they're all different, and there is not one style that students have. And so students live on campus for the first 2 years. And most of the time you start out probably as a first year student in a double. And then as a sophomore, you can decide who you want to live with. And you might have opportunities to live in a quad, triple, and a single, but you kind of pick who you want to live with. A lot of students can stay and will stay on campus for third and fourth years. A lot of students will move into Evanston, into places that are probably just as close to their classes and their extracurriculars as they are when they live on campus. So here's a question I think we could probably both answer. And this might be a good one to kind of wrap up on a little bit. No, I actually got two here before we wrap up. So Mac, I want you to be thinking about this one. It's like, what is the most Northwestern thing about Northwestern, while I answer this question about Greek life? So somebody asked, how big is Greek life at Northwestern? It's surprisingly big, but I don't think that its impact is the same as the proportion of students that are in it. So probably about 30% of students or so are involved in Greek life at Northwestern. But what I have found, having worked at several schools in different regions of the country, that even though that the percentage is high, it's not like you might find at a lot of other schools where like you rush or pledge in the same fraternity sorority that your grandfather or grandmother might have been in at the similar university, 30, 40, 50 years ago. I think a lot of times at Northwestern, when you ask somebody what they do, hardly anybody would tell you that would say that the first thing that they do are they're like alpha, beta, gamma, or whatever it may be. They always talk about extracurriculars, but it's not the dominant social factor on campus. And I think a lot of students use it to as a way to engage in professional portfolio building and making relationships with people, and also for housing, because some of the houses are pretty nice. Do you have any thoughts and opinions on Greek life, Mac?
Yeah, I mean, Greek life is like one of like hundreds of organizations that you can join on campus. And if you didn't join Greek life when you came to Northwestern, you wouldn't be necessarily missing out any like social aspect of campus life or anything. Like, it's for some people, it's not for everybody. But it's not like an integral part of the Northwestern experience, which I think is something that sometimes undergrads or people coming into undergrad are kind of worried about. Oh, do I need to rush a frat or join a sorority in order to make friends? And that's definitely not necessary in order to like have friends on campus.
Okay, how about you take the last question, then I'll close with a little talk about COVID in the fall. And so what is the most Northwestern thing about Northwestern to
Yeah.
you?
I'm glad you gave me time to think about that, because I was it wasn't a hard one, but I had to think about it.
It's one that needs prep.
Yeah. So a big thing about Northwestern that we always say is "and" is in our DNA. And I think like a really unique thing about Northwestern students is that they are very like multifaceted, well-rounded people. As Chad was saying, I've met people who were theater majors but also pre-medical students. People who will have like will just be double majoring across like a variety of schools. And I think that makes people very interested in sort of what you are like doing and what you're working on for your projects as well, even though that might not be their field. I've just found that the community I've found here is full of people who are doing like a variety of like insanely different and interesting things. And that's because like our school structure just allows for people to sort of explore their interests at the same time. Even they don't need to like put themselves into a box of one thing. And that's like something that is very special about Northwestern.
Yeah, I really do think that a lot of times first year students and sophomores will be friends with and meet these older students that are juniors and seniors, and they're like, wow, you can put those two majors together, or you can do this and this and this. And it really are. It's like role models, and it's like you really do realize that there is no path that you have to go through at Northwestern, that you really can have that ability to choose your own thing. It's like we had we had a senior counselor that she went abroad as a sophomore and a senior. You can, and it just was work for her. And you sit down with an academic advisor and you can chart your own course. And it really is. There aren't impacted majors. People aren't here to say no. They're here to say yes and I do really think that's a great part of it. So I want to wrap this up, and I don't want to go and just shut down without mentioning at least like where we are and what's going on campus. And so, how many tickets did you get for graduation given the current pandemic? Did it go from 2 to then 4 because things have improved so much?
Yeah, we started with 2 and then we got 4. And I think when they started with 2 as well, they're sort of thinking, oh, well, 2020 class may come back, might want more room. So just to be safe. But then as we got closer to graduation, restrictions were kind of changing in Illinois. Northwestern like took into consideration what was going on and then
Yep.
allowed us 2 more.
Yeah, and we have done as a university a pretty incredible job at managing COVID over the last year with respect to this pandemic. And so I don't think we have a dashboard up if you're interested in going to look there. You know, our positivity rate on campus, I don't think went above 1% during the pandemic, and now it's probably about 1/10 of 1%. And I think we're somewhere around 75% of students and faculty and staff have at least one vaccine shot. And Northwestern is requiring students in the fall to be vaccinated. And we do anticipate having life being on campus and in person in the fall. We're planning right now to hopefully restart doing some type of on-campus programming for tours later in the summer. Nothing's been approved yet, but we're getting pretty close to getting some guidelines and some from the university and some plans in place. So we can hopefully announce that in the coming weeks and months to get back to some sense of normalcy after and emerging from this. But Chicago is minimal restrictions now on COVID because we're doing pretty well with it. So we hope to see people's faces and people coming back to campus before long. We hopefully in the fall we'll be able to go and visit high schools again and to meet with students and families and counselors to talk about this place that's pretty special. So it kind of need to wrap up with that because it's been the dominant discussion about in this country for the last 15 months or so. So thank you for taking the time to join us today. And I think we got to most of the questions that I saw coming to me here in the chat. And so everybody be safe and have a great summer, and hopefully we see you soon.